I live in a small village 25 minutes away from the nearest city. It's a great place and location, nice and quiet, with a beautiful countryside where everybody knows each other. If the city calls, which it often does, as most of my friends live that way, then it's an easy bus journey. The most annoying aspect of living in this place: the bus that runs directly from the city center to my village makes its final run at 8 p.m., arriving around 8:30. Now I'm 23, and before that I was 18, and people my age were drinking and partying. This means 8 p.m. was unlikely to happen. So, I'm left with three options. I can sleep on a friend's couch, I can get a taxi, or I can get the bus that passes closest to my village. On this particular night, I was 19. I had visited the casino alone and lost all my cash. This meant options 1 and 2 were out the window, and so I headed to the bus stop. This bus journey was super quick, even more so at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. Before too long, my bus stop was nearing. Unfortunately, being rather inebriated and dwelling on a poorly played hand of blackjack, I fell into a daydream, and although it was only for a second, I missed my stop. I got up quickly and pressed the button. A minute later, I'm at the next bus shelter, deciding my move. It's December, it's cold and raining. The snow on the ground is turning to mush, and dirtied shoes of passerbys has diluted the lovely white with an unhealthy and dull-looking gray. An empty McDonald's bag tumbles by and piques my misanthropy. I drop my cigarette and step off the curb to pick it up. Gray mush flows over my low tops, and now I'm miserable. It's a 5-minute walk back to where I should have left the bus, and a further 25-minute walk to my house. It's a well-lit road, and the road has been salted. There's no cars at this time, so I can have a relatively comfortable walk home, if not a bit lengthy. Or I can take the cut through the woods. It's sure to be muddy and dark, but it's 15 minutes quicker. I'm already as cold as I can get. I should have gone the other way. I'd done this walk plenty of times, but always during the day, never in the dark. You start with a 5-minute walk through a path with a chain link fence on the left separating you from the fields of a leisure center. The walls of a warehouse and spiked metal fences of its yard keep you in from the right. Next, it's under the railway bridge and out onto the wasteland. Up until this point, I was feeling pretty comfortable. It was a creepy place at night for sure, but I knew there was no one nearby when I entered the cut, so no one would be coming in behind, and there was a faint glow from the lights in the factory that let me see what was ahead of me. I even had my headphones in, until the wasteland. I'm stood in the open now, the cut is behind me, an empty factory is ahead of me. It's locked up tight for the night, or maybe it's abandoned. It's full of rusted old cars. To my right there's a small wooded area, to my left a larger woods. The ground I'm walking on has been ruined by kids riding their quad bikes around in the day, and the rain has made it worse. The light from the factory is gone, and I nearly slip. I'm reminiscing about all the wonderful walks I had on the lit and salted road to my house, as I let my eyes adjust to the darkness I'm now in. At this point, I got a strange feeling, and I was almost instantly sobered. Now this feeling has been described plenty of times around here, and described well enough that if you haven't experienced it firsthand, then you still have a pretty good idea what it must be like. It's the feeling that you're not alone. It comes from your gut, and let me tell you, when you should be alone, there's nothing more unsettling. I could have turned back, and a light jog would have had me back where I started in 2 minutes. I'd have a half-hour walk, but I'd be feeling pretty fucking comfortable during it compared to right now. However, I couldn't see anyone, and I couldn't hear anyone. There was just no way anyone would be out at this time, and I'd laugh at myself as soon as I was wrapped up in my warm bed, which was only 10 minutes away if I carried on. By this point, I'd been thinking about what I should do for a couple minutes, and it occurred to my paranoid mind that by now someone could be well on their way through the cut and towards me, so I continued on with my earphones no longer playing, just to be safe. The last part of the walk that can be considered creepy is the walk between the larger woods and the factory. The path was turned up, and puddles of sludge and cold water were more common than solid ground. It was so dark that I ran my hand along the rusted panels of the empty factory's fence to keep me on track, careful not to lift my hand up too high, in fear of cutting my hand on the barbed wire I knew ran along the top. To the left was the woods, and after a brief look into them, as I entered the path, I decided they were sufficiently nope enough to not look anymore. The trees were so bare and threatening, and it was dark, so dark that I couldn't see more than 10 feet in. It gave the illusion that I was further from society than I was, and I didn't like it. I sped up. Then I was falling over. I had kicked a large stone on the floor, and it sent me tumbling to the ground. Luckily, I didn't land in a puddle, and was no worse for wear as I got to my feet. Remembering that noise will ruin even the calmest of my moods now. My eyes widened and stomach hit the floor. Instinctively, I spun around to see who had stepped out from the woods, and I saw him as he stepped onto the path, first facing away from me, briefly as if to check behind him, and then towards me. He was 15 feet away and tall, over 6 foot by a fair chunk, and he was broad. His hair was long and covered half his face, as he hung his head either looking straight at the floor or up at me. I couldn't tell. I was totally sober now, and although I was aware I was breathing heavily, I couldn't hear myself for the sound of my heart beating in my ears. I wanted to say something that made me seem like I wasn't an easy target for whatever he wanted. "What?" is all I managed, and he just stood there, saying nothing. I didn't know what to do. I could run at him and fight. I could run into the woods. I could ring the police quickly. I did my best to calm myself, to think clearly, but right then he started to walk towards me, slowly but deliberately. He lowered his head further to the ground. I just turned and sprinted. I heard heavy splashes behind, and knew that he wasn't just walking now either. I just fucking sprinted, praying I wouldn't be caught and praying I wouldn't trip or fall. I ran out of the woods. I just kept sprinting up the hill through the park, waiting for his hand to grab my shoulder at any second. I just sprinted through the streets as I grabbed my house key from my pocket. I jumped over my fence and got straight into the house, locking it immediately. I didn't look outside. I never peered back as I was running. I'll never know how far he chased me, or how close he came to grabbing me, and I really hope I'll never know what he wanted. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. If you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe. Bear with me as I grow this channel. I'm still trying to find that right identity, that right voice. So, thanks guys. Later.